The emptiness of space stretched before Riven Caldath like an endless void, each distant star a reminder of how far he'd fallen. 5 years since his exile from Earth, 5 years since the Galactic Federation had labeled humanity too volatile for interstellar cooperation. And he, former commander of Earth's elite defense force, had become the perfect scapegoat. Blood coated his knuckles as he slammed his fist into the wall of his decrepit vessel. The pariah's dream. The ship's warning. Systems blared, red lights washing the cramped cockpit in crimson. Proximity alert. Unknown vessel approaching. The ship's AI announced with mechanical indifference. Hostile? Riven growled, already reaching for the pulse rifle mounted beneath the console. Out here in the fringe systems, questions came second to survival. Negative. Broadcasting diplomatic codes, Federation registry. Riven's laugh was bitter. Federation in the fringe? That's new. Broadcast standard warnings and prepare defensive systems. His fingers hovered over the weapon controls when the communications panel flashed to life. The face that appeared wasn't what he expected, not the stern visage of a Federation official, but something else entirely. Violet skin shimmered with an inner luminescence. 4 eyes, arranged in a diamond pattern, blinked at different intervals, and elaborate markings adorned a high forehead beneath a crown of crystal shards. Warrior Riven Caldath of Earth, the alien spoke, its voice melodic yet urgent. I am High Priestess Kavala Moonshade of the Lumiri Conclave. You're a long way from home, Priestess, Riven replied, voice hard with suspicion. The Lumiri were legendary, ancient, enigmatic, and notoriously isolationist. Federation lapdog now? I seek the exiled warrior, the one who faced the Krell battalion at the Battle of Proxima and survived. Images flashed through Riven's mind, the screams of his soldiers, the overwhelming force of the insectoid Krell, the desperate last stand that had saved millions but cost him everything when the Federation claimed he'd violated interspecies combat protocols. That warrior died when they stripped his rank and banished him. Riven snarled, all 4 of Kavala's eyes focused on him simultaneously. No, the ancient texts speak clearly. When darkness rises from beneath the stars, the banished one shall become the shield. Her voice dropped to a whisper. The prophecy of Kaleth names you, Riven Caldath. You are Saharak, the sacred weapon. Riven's finger tensed on the trigger. I'm nobody's weapon anymore. Then all sentient life will perish, Kavala stated simply. The Void Heralds have awakened. The name sent ice through Riven's veins. The Void Heralds, creatures of legend said to have nearly exterminated all life in the galaxy eons ago before disappearing. Stories to frighten children. Impossible, he whispered. Kavala's expression remained unreadable. The Federation Council refused to listen. They believe the attacks on our outer colonies are random pirate raids, but I have seen the truth in the sacred oracles. Her voice trembled. The void awakens and only the warrior cast aside can stand against it. The proximity alert sounded again, more urgent. Multiple vessels detected, the AI reported. Configuration unknown. Weapon systems active. On the view screen, dark ships emerged from the blackness of space. Angular, obsidian constructs that seemed to absorb light rather than reflect it. The harbingers come, Kavala whispered. Choose now, warrior. Continue your exile and die alone, or embrace your destiny and give all sentient beings a chance to survive. Riven's fingers tightened around the worn controls of his ship. 5 years of hatred and bitterness crystallized into a single moment of clarity. If we survive the next 5 minutes, Priestess, he growled, we'll talk about your prophecy. The pariah's dream lurched as Riven engaged full thrusters, barreling toward the approaching darkness. The Harbinger vessels moved with unnatural precision, their obsidian hulls swallowing weapon fire like hungry maws. Riven's combat instincts, honed through decades of warfare, hadn't dulled during exile. He twisted the pariah's dream through impossible maneuvers, the aging ship groaning under the strain. Your vessel cannot withstand prolonged engagement, Kavala observed from the co-pilot seat she'd claimed during their desperate escape. Her 4 eyes tracked multiple targeting systems simultaneously. The Lumiri cruiser can extract us, but we must reach the dimensional fold point. The what now? Riven grunted, yanking the controls as energy beams sliced through space where they'd been moments before. A temporary rupture in space-time. My ship waits on the other side. Her slender, violet fingers manipulated unfamiliar symbols on a crystalline device at her wrist. We must reach coordinates 34, 67, 92 in precisely 3 minutes. Riven barked a laugh. 3 minutes? Through that blockade? Impossible. Kavala fixed him with all 4 eyes. The Saharic does not know impossibility. Stop calling me that. Riven banked hard, using a debris field for momentary cover. I'm just a soldier who pissed off the wrong politicians. Yet you survived where an entire battalion perished. You found victories where your commander saw only defeat. Her voice softened. The sacred texts describe the Saharic perfectly. Cast from the stars of birth, bearing scars of spirit deeper than flesh. Riven's hand unconsciously touched. The jagged scar running from temple to jaw, a parting gift from a Krell warrior's mandible. Fancy words don't change reality, priestess, and reality is we're outnumbered 12-1. Then change reality, she challenged. That is what humans do best, is it not? Something about her words ignited a familiar fire in Riven's chest. The same determination that had kept him fighting when logic dictated surrender. With a savage grin, he punched new commands into the nav system. Hold on to something, priestess. This'll get rough. The pariah's dream dove toward the nearest Harbinger vessel, weapons systems overloading as Riven poured dangerous levels of power into the forward shields. What are you doing? Kavala demanded. Changing reality. The ships collided in a controlled impact, Riven using the enemy vessel's hull as a springboard to catapult the pariah through the formation. Alarm screamed as hull integrity dropped to critical levels, but they broke through the blockade. 30 seconds to fold coordinates, Kavala announced, her normally serene voice tinged with what might have been admiration. The view screen blazed, with incoming fire as the Harbingers adjusted course to pursue. Impact after impact rocked the ship as shields failed completely. Life support compromised, the AI reported dispassionately. Hull breach imminent. Almost there, Riven growled through gritted teeth, hands dancing across controls, coaxing impossible. Performance from the dying vessel. Kavala's device emitted a high-pitched tone.
Fold initiating. Space before them rippled like disturbed water, reality itself seeming to tear open. Beyond the breach, Riven glimpsed an enormous vessel of sleek, crystalline design, the Lumiri cruiser. As they plunged into the dimensional fold, the pariah's dream gave its final breath.
Systems shut down one by one as the hull began to disintegrate around them. We won't make it, Riven shouted above the cacophony of destruction. Kavala grasped his forearm, her touch unexpectedly warm. The sacred weapon cannot fall here. This is only the beginning. Light enveloped them as the pariah finally surrendered to the stresses upon it. Riven felt a strange sensation of dissolution, as if his very atoms were being carefully disassembled and reassembled. When consciousness returned, he found himself lying on a gleaming floor in a vast chamber. Towering crystalline pillars rose to a ceiling that seemed to reflect the cosmos itself. Around him, elegant Lumiri in flowing robes observed with expressions ranging from curiosity to outright hostility. Kavala stood before him, her ceremonial robes replaced by fitted armor that shimmered with embedded technology. Welcome aboard, the Stellar Covenant, Warrior Kaldath, she said formally. Or should I say the Saharic, the sacred weapon of the Lumiri people? Riven rose slowly, acutely aware of the weight of countless alien gazes. I didn't agree to that title. A tall Lumiri male stepped forward, his skin darker purple than Kavala's, his expression thunderous. This is blasphemy, High Priestess. The sacred text cannot possibly refer to a human. He spat the word like a curse. The oracles have confirmed it, First Sentinel Mirketh, Kavala replied calmly. The patterns are unmistakable. Then the oracles are flawed, Mirketh hissed. Riven stepped forward, squaring his shoulders. 5 years of exile hadn't diminished his command presence. I don't care about your prophecies or your titles, but those ships out there, the Harbingers, they're real. And if they're connected to the Void Heralds of Legend, then we have bigger problems than hurt feelings over who gets to be your sacred whatever. The chamber fell silent at his outburst. Kavala's mouth curved in what might have been a smile. As always, she said softly, the Saharic speaks truth when others cannot face it. The War Council chamber of the Stellar Covenant hummed with tension. Holographic displays showed the spread of Void Herald attacks across the outer systems, far more numerous than Federation reports acknowledged. Riven studied the tactical projections with growing unease. The pattern is deliberate, he observed, gesturing to specific attack points. They're not random raids. They're testing defenses, analyzing response times. First Sentinel Mirketh sneered. And what would a human know of advanced tactical doctrine? Enough to recognize an extinction-level threat, Riven countered evenly. The Void Heralds are hurting civilian populations, not just attacking them. They want survivors. Kavala stepped closer to the display, her luminescent skin casting soft light on the projections. For what purpose? Harvesting, Riven said grimly. The legend spoke of the Heralds consuming sentient life force. I think they're collecting subjects. Murmurs rippled through the gathered Lumiri officials. Mirketh's expression darkened further. Speculation without evidence, High Priestess. Meanwhile, this human stands in our most sacred chamber without undergoing the rites of purification. Our ancestors would weep. Kavala's 4 eyes narrowed. Our ancestors would act, First Sentinel, not hide behind ceremony while worlds burn. Before Mirketh could respond, the chamber doors parted. An elderly Lumiri female entered, supported by 2 attendants. Her skin had faded to pale lavender with age, and the crystal crown upon her head was more elaborate than Kavala's. The assembled Lumiri immediately knelt. Even Mirketh bowed his head in deference. Grand Oracle Ishara, Kavala greeted, bending in respect. We did not expect your presence. Riven remained standing, watching with cautious interest as the ancient Lumiri approached. Ishara ignored the others, moving directly to Riven. Her eyes, clouded with age yet somehow piercing, studied him intently. The stars sing your name. Human, she said, her voice surprisingly strong. I have heard them for centuries. Without warning, she reached out, pressing a gnarled hand to his chest. Such pain you carry, such fire. Riven stood motionless, uncomfortably aware that whatever happened next would determine his fate among the Lumiri. Grand Oracle Mirketh protested, This creature is unworthy. Silence, Ishara commanded without looking away from Riven. I will test the truth myself. From her robes, she produced a crystal similar to Kavala's but larger, pulsing with inner light. The Soul Stone reveals all deceptions, human. If you are not the Saharic, it will consume your consciousness. Are you willing to submit to its judgment? Riven glanced at Kavala, who gave an almost imperceptible nod. I have nothing to hide, he said, returning his gaze to Ishara. But understand this, I'm not here because of prophecy. I'm here because something is coming that threatens all life. If stopping it means proving myself to you, then test me. Ishara's mouth curved in a smile. Without further warning, she pressed the crystal against his forehead. Pain exploded behind Riven's eyes, white-hot and all-consuming. His mind was laid bare, memories flashing like lightning. Childhood on Earth's recovered coastlines, military academy training, his first command, the horrors of the Krell War, the betrayal of the Federation Council, years of bitter exile. Thiyar. Crystal began to glow brighter, pulsing in rhythm with his heartbeat. Through the haze of agony, Riven became aware of gasps from the assembled Lumiri. Impossible, Mirketh whispered. When Ishara finally withdrew the crystal, Riven staggered, barely keeping his feet. The stone in her hand now blazed with blinding light. The Soul Stone has never reacted thus, Ishara announced to the chamber. Not in 10,000 years of our history. She turned to face her people. The human speaks truth. He is the Saharic, the sacred weapon foretold. Kavala stepped forward. Then we must proceed with the awakening ritual immediately. What ritual? Riven demanded, still recovering from the crystal's intrusion. Kavala met his gaze steadily. To fulfill the prophecy, the Saharic must be bonded with the ancient guardian spirit of the Lumiri. Only then will you command the power needed to face the void. Riven's laugh held no humor. Let me get this straight. You want to put an alien spirit inside me? Not inside you, Ishara corrected, to become part of you. The process is irreversible and has never been attempted with a non-Lumiri. It may destroy you. Or it may give us our only chance against the heralds, Kavala added quietly. A proximity alarm sounded throughout the ship. Tactical displays flared. With new information, Harbinger vessels detected, a Lumiri officer announced. They've tracked us through the fold. Mirketh barked orders and the chamber erupted into coordinated activity. Defensive positions, prepare jump calculations. Riven studied the tactical display, a cold certainty forming in his gut. They're not just tracking us, he said. Look, at their formation they're hurting us too, cutting off escape vectors. How could they anticipate our dimensional fold technology? Kavala questioned. Because they've fought you before, Riven realized aloud. The legends say the Void Heralds nearly wiped out all sentient life eons ago. They've faced Lumiri technology before. They remember. The implications settled heavily on the chamber. Cannot outrun them indefinitely, Ishara stated. The choice stands before you, human. Attempt the bonding ritual or face the void without its power. Riven looked to the tactical display, where multiple Harbinger vessels were closing from all directions, then to the faces of the Lumiri around him, ancient and advanced yet now looking to him with desperate hope. I've spent 5 years hating the universe for casting me aside, he said finally. Maybe it was preparing me for this. He turned to Kavala. Tell me about this ritual, priestess. What do I need to do? The Temple of Ascension lay at the heart of the Stellar Covenant, a vast chamber where living crystal formations grew in impossible geometries. As the ship shuddered under the first impacts from Harbinger weapons, Riven followed Kavala through a series of ceremonial preparations. The guardian spirit is not a separate entity, she explained, applying luminescent sigils to his bare chest, with her fingertips. It is the distilled essence of our most powerful ancestors, preserved through the ages for this moment. Comforting, Riven muttered as the sigils began to burn against his skin. And if this kills me instead? Kavala's expression remained solemn. Then the prophecy was misinterpreted, and we face extinction regardless. Another impact rocked the ship more violently. Mirketh's voice echoed through communication channels. Forward shields failing, we cannot maintain this position. Ishara, who had been preparing an elaborate crystalline device at the center of the temple, turned to them. We must begin now or lose the opportunity forever. Riven was directed to a circular platform surrounded by 7 crystalline pillars. As he stepped onto it, energy fields hummed to life around him. The bonding will seek out the core of your being, Kavala warned. It will test your resolve, human. Many Lumiri candidates have been found unworthy and destroyed in the attempt. Good thing I'm not Lumiri then, Riven replied with grim humor. Ishara approached, carrying a container that pulsed with swirling azure energy. The Guardian awaits its vessel. Are you prepared, Saharic? Before Riven could answer, the ship lurched violently. Warning alarms blared throughout the temple. Hull breach in sectors 7 through 12, came a panicked report. Boarding. Parties detected, Mirketh's voice followed immediately. They're inside the ship. All warriors to defensive positions. Protect the temple at all costs. Ishara's expression hardened. We have no more time for ceremony. Without further warning, she unsealed the container. The azure energy rose like liquid light, swirling momentarily before surging toward Riven. It struck him with physical force, knocking him backward. Pain unlike anything he'd experienced coursed through every cell. Not the pain of damage, but of transformation. His consciousness expanded exponentially, memories not his own flooding his mind. Ancient battles, cosmic knowledge, the birth and death of stars. Through the agony, he dimly heard weapons fire outside the temple. The Harbingers had reached them. Within the maelstrom of his transforming consciousness, Riven perceived a presence, ancient, powerful, curious. Who seeks the guardianship? It questioned directly into his mind. Riven Caldath, he gasped aloud, fighting to maintain his identity, amidst the overwhelming force. Human warrior. Human. The presence seemed to consider this. Your kind is young, volatile, unpredictable. Yeah, we get that a lot. Riven managed through gritted teeth. Why do you seek this power, human? Vengeance for your exile? Glory? Dominance? The question cut to his core. Why was he doing this? For 5 years, rage had been his primary companion, at the Federation, at the universe itself. Now facing annihilation, what truly drove him? Survival, he answered finally. Not just mine, everyone's. Images flashed through his mind. Earth's cities, alien worlds he'd visited, refugees he'd protected, even the Federation Council that had condemned him. All life, connected in its struggle against the encroaching void. A worthy answer, the presence acknowledged, but incomplete. The temple doors burst inward. Through pain-blurred vision, Riven saw Lumiri warriors falling before shadowy figures. The Harbingers had breached the final defenses. Kavala fought desperately, her ceremonial armor now serving a practical purpose as she cut down attackers with surprising skill. But they were outnumbered. Ishara had fallen, her ancient form crumpled near the entrance. One of the Harbingers approached the energy field surrounding Riven, a bipedal figure encased in armor that seemed to absorb light itself. Its faceless helmet turned toward him, with predatory interest. Within Riven's mind, the guardian presence stirred with recognition. The void returns. The cycle continues. Help me stop them, Riven pleaded, watching as Kavala was surrounded by attackers. Complete the bonding. Why should this cycle end differently? Why are you worthy when so many others failed? The Harbinger reached the energy field, extending a gauntleted hand that began to disrupt the protective barrier. In that moment, clarity struck Riven like lightning. Because I've lost everything already, he said, no longer struggling against the pain but embracing it. I know what it means to be cast into darkness. I've faced oblivion alone. His gaze found Kavala as she fought desperately to reach him, violet blood streaming from multiple wounds. Their eyes met across the chaos. But I choose to fight anyway, Riven continued. Not for redemption, not for glory, but because standing against darkness is the only choice worth making. The energy field collapsed. The Harbinger stepped onto the platform, reaching for Riven's throat. Then rise, Saharik, the guardian presence declared. Rise and carry our light into the void. The azure energy that had been swirling around Riven suddenly contracted, merging with his very being. The pain vanished, replaced by profound clarity and power that coursed through him like liquid starlight. The Harbinger's hand halted inches from his throat, suddenly unable to advance further. Riven opened eyes that now glowed with inner light. With a thought, he generated a shockwave that hurled the Harbinger across the temple. Around him, the invaders paused in their assault, faceless helmets turning toward this unexpected development. Riven stepped from the platform, power radiating from his transformed body. He extended a hand to Kavala, helping her to her feet. The ritual, it worked? She asked in disbelief. Riven nodded, feeling ancient knowledge integrating with his combat experience. Oh yeah, he replied, a fierce smile spreading across his face as the Harbingers regrouped for another attack. It definitely worked. Dawn broke over the Federation capital on Proxima Centauri B, its binary suns casting dual shadows across the gleaming towers. Inside the Grand Council chamber, Admiral Drayson paced nervously before the assembled representatives of 27 species. The reports are verified, he announced grimly. 17 outer colonies have gone silent in the past month alone. The Lumiri Conclave has officially broken their isolation to warn us of a threat they call the Void Heralds. Councillor Vex of the Toran Collective sneered. The Lumiri emerge from centuries of seclusion with tales of ancient enemies? Convenient? Timing. Considering our recent discovery of crystalline deposits in their territory, the Lumiri have no interest in our resources, Admiral Drayson countered. The chamber doors burst open. Federation security forces rushed in, weapons raised, only to be effortlessly pushed aside by an invisible force. Two figures strode into the center of the chamber, a Lumiri female in battle-scarred ceremonial armor and a human male whose presence commanded immediate attention. Gasps and mutters filled the chamber as recognition dawned. Commander Caldath, Admiral Drayson, breathed. It's just Riven now, he corrected, surveying the faces that had condemned him 5 years earlier. His eyes glowed subtly with inner light. I'm here representing the Lumiri conclave. You were exiled, sputtered Counselor Tren of the Arcadian Worlds. Your presence on any Federation world is forbidden, Kavala stepped forward. The human you cast aside has become Saharak, the sacred weapon of my people. He stands outside your authority now. Riven raised a hand, calming the ensuing uproar. We don't have time for jurisdictional debates. The Void Heralds aren't just taking colonies, they're harvesting sentient beings for energy. They've returned after 50,000 years to finish what they started. Preposterous, Counselor Vex dismissed. This is clearly a ploy for... Riven's patience evaporated. With a gesture, the center of the chamber illuminated with a crystalline projection. Vivid images of harbinger ships descending on defenseless worlds, shadowy figures efficiently capturing colonists, horrific extraction facilities where captives were drained of life essence. This is happening now, Riven stated flatly as counselors recoiled from the images. While you debate, more worlds fall. The Lumiri fought them before and failed. This time, we need to stand together. Admiral Drayson studied the tactical projections with professional interest. These Harbinger vessels, they're unlike anything in our databases. How do we fight them? We've had some success, Kavala acknowledged. Since the Saharik's transformation, we've liberated 3 processing facilities and evacuated 5 worlds in the Herald's path. Riven manipulated the projection, showing footage of recent battles, his transformed abilities evident as he directed pure energy against the Harbingers, coordinating perfectly with Lumiri forces. This is why they feared him, Kavala explained, to the stunned council. Your commander Caldath possessed natural tactical abilities that made him dangerous. The Federation discarded its greatest weapon just before it was most needed. The council chamber fell silent, the accusation hanging heavy in the air. What exactly do you want from us? Admiral Drayson finally asked. A united defense, Riven answered simply. The Heralds are following a specific expansion pattern. We can predict their next targets. He expanded the tactical display, highlighting several Federation core worlds, including this one. Alarm spread through the chamber as counselors recognized their homeworlds among the projected targets. The Lumiri fleet stands ready, Kavala continued, but we cannot cover all approach vectors. We need Federation forces coordinated with ours. Under whose command? Counselor Tren demanded. We cannot simply hand control of our military to the human you exiled? Riven finished for him. Don't worry, Counselor. I'm not here to take command of your forces. Then what? Admiral Drayson pressed. I'm here to save them, Riven replied evenly. The Void Heralds aren't just stronger than us. They're older. They've seen every tactic, every strategy developed in this galaxy. They remember the Lumiri from 50,000 years ago. They remember how they nearly won. So what makes this time different? Admiral Drayson asked the question everyone was thinking. Riven's eyes flared brighter momentarily. Me. Humans weren't part of that equation before. We fight differently. Think differently. The Heralds haven't encountered humanity before. They don't know what we're capable of. Kavala nodded. The Saharak combines human unpredictability with Lumiri ancient knowledge. It is the partnership our ancestors foresaw, the key to survival. A proximity alarm blared throughout the capital. Outside the chamber windows, the sky darkened as massive shapes descended through the atmosphere. The unmistakable silhouettes of Harbinger vessels. They've followed us, Kavala realized with horror. How is this possible? Riven's expression, hardened as understanding, dawned. They're not tracking us, he said, turning to study the counselors. They're tracking someone in this room. Panic erupted as suspicions and accusations flew. Riven closed his eyes, reaching out with his enhanced senses. The Guardian's power flowed through him, detecting subtle energy patterns, including one that didn't belong. His eyes snapped open, focusing on Counselor Vex. Without warning, Riven lunged across the chamber, faster than human limitations should allow. His hand clamped around the Tauran's throat, lifting him from his seat. Found you, Riven growled. Before the security forces could react, Vex's form shimmered and changed, his features melting away to reveal the faceless helmet of a Harbinger infiltrator. How long? Riven demanded, tightening his grip. How long? Have you been replacing council members? The Harbinger's voice emerged like grinding stone. Long enough to ensure your division. Your extinction comes now. Outside, the first bombardment began. Federation defense systems responded, but the Harbinger ships continued their implacable descent. Riven released the infiltrator, turning to Admiral Drayson. Evacuate the capital. Get your ships in the air. As security forces restrained the revealed infiltrator, Riven moved to the chamber's massive windows, Kavala at his side. They've accelerated their timeline, she observed tensely. We're not prepared for a full-scale assault. Riven watched the approaching Harbinger fleet, calculating odds with both human instinct and Lumiri analytical precision. No, he agreed. But we'll fight anyway. He turned back to the chamber where panic and purpose battled for supremacy. This is the moment, Admiral. Either we stand together now, or we fall separately forever. Admiral Drayson studied him for a long moment before nodding sharply. All Federation forces will follow your tactical direction, Commander Kaldath. He smiled thinly. Consider your exile temporarily suspended. Outside, the first Harbinger landing craft touched down on the capital's outskirts. Temporarily works. For me, Riven replied, azure energy beginning to coalesce around his hands as he prepared for battle. Let's show these ancient bastards that humanity's learned some new tricks while they were sleeping. The ruined landscape of Proxima's capital stretched before Riven like an accusation. 3 days of relentless combat had left the once gleaming metropolis a wasteland of shattered buildings and burning debris. Federation and Lumiri forces fought side by side in desperate holding actions as civilians evacuated to orbital platforms. From his position atop the council tower, the last major structure still standing, Riven directed the Allied defense with grim efficiency. The Guardian's power flowing through him allowed simultaneous awareness of dozens of battlefronts. Eastern sector collapsing, Kavala reported, her once pristine armor now scorched and dented. Harbinger heavy units have breached the final perimeter. Riven nodded, redirecting reinforcements with a thought. The neural link established with both Federation and Lumiri commanders allowed instant tactical coordination unprecedented in galactic warfare. Evacuation status, he asked, not taking his eyes from the battlefield below. 78% complete, Kavala answered. Admiral Drayson reports the orbital platforms will reach jump range in approximately 40 minutes. We won't last. 40 minutes, Riven stated flatly, watching as another defensive position collapsed under Harbinger assault. Kavala's 4 eyes studied him intently. You have a plan? It wasn't a question. In the days since their arrival, she had come to read him with unnerving accuracy. Not a plan, Riven corrected. A realization. He turned to face her fully. The Heralds aren't just fighting us, they're studying us, learning our capabilities. They're especially focused on me. You represent an unknown variable. Kavala agreed. The Guardian's power wielded by a human consciousness. Exactly, and they're committing disproportionate resources to either capture or kill me. Riven's eyes narrowed as he watched the pattern of enemy movements below. They fear what I represent. As they should, Kavala said with unexpected fierceness. The prophecy— Forget the prophecy, Riven interrupted. Think tactically. The heralds remember the Lumiri from 50,000 years ago. They've adapted to counter your technology, your strategies. But humans, we're new, unpredictable. Understanding dawned in Kavala's expression. And when combined with the Guardian's power, we become something they can't calculate, Riven finished. Something that might actually hurt them. He gestured toward the massive Void Herald command ship that hovered ominously above the battlefield, directing the Harbinger forces. That's why they won't approach directly. They're gathering data, learning how to neutralize me before risking direct confrontation. A nearby explosion rocked the tower. Structural integrity warnings flashed across tactical displays. We're out of time, Riven decided. If we stay on the defensive, we lose. The evacuation needs more time. His eyes met Kavala's. I need to take the fight to them. To the command ship? Kavala's voice held rare alarm. That's suicide even for the Saharak. Probably, Riven acknowledged with a grim smile. But it's the only play we have left. He reached out, placing a hand